Yeah, that is no no joke. It's on. You should see it on the top of the screen, like up in the corner. Can you? Oh no,
Oh yeah.
I see it's recording. Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I do too. Yep. Well, that's good. That's good to know too. Then I can also check that.
yeah. Please, thank you,
Like when we're doing our thing, I can just be like, "Oh, yep, I see the recording button."
dude. No shit. Last night you sent it as a joke to play Halloween in full screen. The UI
Yeah, you said that.
or the UX design is so bad in that DVD. It was
So
straight up.
you clicked on
I clicked
full screen,
widescreen
but
and
yeah,
went to full screen because
that's
it was
crazy.
yeah, it was nuts. And then we couldn't get it back to like figure it out. Like I just want the menu that I sent you that just had full screen.
Right.
And finally, because Davey just came over to watch a movie because he's like, I want one last like hangout before the kids go back to school. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like because I don't want to hang out with anybody once they're uh, once they're back in school just for a little bit because of everything going on. And not that
Yeah.
we've been hanging out very much. Like he sat on one side of the living, our living room. We have the two
Oh
couches,
yeah, yeah.
so he sat there. But it's our tradition to watch horror movies. And after I have a quick little aside for you, but we couldn't get it back to get to that menu. And finally, Dave's like, just go into video settings because it was such a cheesy menu system. And
Yeah, those old Blu-rays or DVDs are horrible
so that's where
sometimes.
we got it to set. So we set back in, and then Dave was not making fun of me, but he's like, he could not believe that this is the first time for me watching Halloween.
That's your first. That was your actually first
First time.
viewing of Halloween.
Yeah, for being like
Wow.
into horror movies, like I would never like pick up a mantle of like I'm the biggest horror movie fan because I'm not clearly,
Right.
but I feel like everyone has a couple gaps though. There's like I've met someone that's super into horror movies and been like, "Have you seen this?" And they're like, "No." Everyone has like
Okay.
something that they don't. But so that was my
I'm
first
like the
time
resident
watching it.
nerd, and I have never seen like I think I've seen the very very first Star Wars all the way through,
Yeah,
and then the other two originals in bits and pieces, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
none of the other Star Wars
Well,
movies.
people
And
like
everybody's always like assumes I'm like this big Star Wars fan because
yeah.
I'm like into magic and go to Gen Con and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, no,
Well, I remember seeing the VHSs at your house and Madison Heights and being like, "Dude, fucking wars," and you're like, "Yeah, I never saw them," because we we grew up in that weird era. It's hard to tell people now who are young who know like Star Wars around, but we grew
Mhm.
up in the shadow of Star Wars. Like it was pretty much done.
Yeah,
Like we were like the toys were around, like at garage sales and stuff like that.
yep,
So I always tell like because Dana had the lunch pail with the X wings on it. You know what I mean? When she was a kid.
right.
You know, and then of course like because so it's not a new thing about like fucking assholes in the Star Wars franchise like picking on girls for being into it because she had the X-wing lunch pail, got made fun of at school, and then got rid of it and got a Snoopy one. I was like,
Oh, dude, that
so
sucks.
heartbreaking. And now she's just like, dude, I should have just been like, fuck you, but you're a kid, you know.
Right.
So now we actually have an ornament version of it. But we grew up where we didn't know there was. It's so funny. We're talking about the
Oh,
wars,
dude, that's awesome. Yeah.
and I got Admiral Akbar socks on. But to me, it was just one movie because we would always watch them on USA because USA would
Mhm.
just get them, and it was like I didn't realize, you know, because you didn't have that much time to watch movies, and you know what I mean. No one was.
Right.
Our parents were never really into sci-fi, so it wasn't until I started being friends with Mike in like sixth grade, and his parents were like super into the wars. And then my friend
Mhm.
Becky, her family bought remember when the first set of them came out, but before they re-released them in the theaters, or like it was coincide the re-release.
Yes.
We watched them, and then me and you went and saw the first two in theaters. So we
Yep.
saw the first two in theaters. So you might not remember
Yes.
the
Yeah.
term.
No, I do. I
And
mean,
that's when I
yeah.
got into them, and I was just like, oh, this is what everyone's because we just didn't have like our cousin wasn't into them. We didn't have older cousins to like show us
Right.
the way. You know what I mean? Our friends were really into that. We were more into like medieval kind of fantasy, but like that was kind of like when it was re-released. That's when I kind of woke back up to the wars.
It's funny to think about the shit that we're into because if other than music, because I always tell, mom all the time, I'm like, like, yeah, obviously you weren't listening to like freaking Slayer
Blair, yeah,
and Metallica and stuff like that. But just off the top of my head, like if if they weren't listening to like freaking, you know, the Stones, Led Zeppelin,
mhm,
UB40, Madonna, you know
Better
what I mean?
Jack,
Like all different types of music
mhm,
like they did when we were growing up. I don't know if I would have grown up with like eclectic view of
mhm,
music that I have, because
yeah,
like a lot of people, we talked about this before on different shows, that a lot of people are like very rigid in the things that they like.
oh, yeah,
So it's like if you're into R&B, you're like, you listen to R&B, and there might be like a country song you identify with, or like maybe like oh, like I went through like a little Slayer phase for
yeah,
like a couple of days. Me and you, other people we hang out with in music, like we like everything.
yeah.
Like there's
And it's the
nothing else.
same
Like
way, yeah.
I've listened, dude. I remember going up to Hell, Michigan to run a race with Nate, and we listened to freaking like steel drum music on Pandora like for 2.5 hours. I was like, it just whatever, man.
Well, I mean, I
But
rock out to, like, video game soundtracks and,
yeah,
like, random stuff that I discover.
right.
But
Oh, where I was going with that though,
yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up,
no,
is
no,
just like, but other than like the music thing, like it always cracks me up. Like I'm like, I don't know how, like you just, I guess you get older or grow up, and you, like either through things you get introduced to from your friends or
mhm,
whatever. Like I'm like, I don't understand how we like got into some of the things that we got into, because like mom and dad didn't watch horror movies and like sci-fi movies and stuff like that. Nobody in our family, you maybe a little teeny bit because of Dana. Nobody in our family watches sports, and I somehow grew up to be like
yeah.
a freaking
Oh,
like sports mega
if you
fan.
wanna hear
Like
some, like, awesome, like, so real quick, Angie's the one that showed me Army of Darkness when it came out.
oh nice, that's really
Like,
awesome.
yeah, I remember
It's because now that
yeah,
we're older,
yeah,
we don't realize like how like we say close. It wasn't like she was like five. You know what I mean? Like you don't realize like that'd be like me. Like Kenna just turned 13
yeah,
today.
be like us,
Like in a couple of years, like I could be doing the same thing. I could be like that
yeah.
uncle that like shows her like freaking Halloween or something like
Yeah.
that.
Like, if he,
And
like, shows any interest in a horror
if
movie, you're
you
like,
feel
"Oh,
like you're
okay."
like all this much older than them, but
Yeah.
it's like, in the grand scheme of things, nah, maybe
No, we just, like
15, 20 years, you
mom,
know?
and Angie watched it, had no clue what it was, loved it, and then it wasn't until a couple years later because there is no, like, info, you know what I mean? It's just like my aunt just showed me this crazy movie, and then it was years later getting into going back and watching
Did
Evil
she
Dead
show
or
you Army of Darkness? You
Army of
said
Darkness, yeah. Yeah,
Army of
this is the first
Darkness
one I saw,
before or after she showed us the doors?
dude. The Doors and Pump Up the Volume, and
Yeah.
it was, a matinee for
Yeah.
us.
Like people I talk about like that creepy or like that uncomfortable, like the first time you're watching like a movie with your parents or whatever, there's like a sex scene, and I was like, dude, I was like 13 years old and I'm like
Yeah, I was 8.
watching the doors.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was
Dude,
insane.
the '80s and early
Yeah, 12
'90s,
or 13. Yeah.
you could be like, you're the parental guidance for these 2."
Yeah.
Like, and why yeah, we had no disrespect, so I think it's an amazing story, but we had no business, like, culturally, even being we had no reference for, like, who the Doors were, you
No,
know what I mean? Like, at all, like,
dude, we
about
talk about this stuff like all the time. Like it just back then, you didn't think about that. Like mom and dad dropped me, you, and Tony off at freaking Showcase Cinema to go see the freaking Boys in the Hood. But
no,
it
I
was,
wasn't with you, I remember watching that HBO, I think it was you and
oh, okay.
Tony,
So it must have
yeah,
just been me and Tony then.
it was you and
Okay.
Tony, yeah.
Was it you and me and Tony that went and saw Blue Chips?
Uh,
The was Shaquille
no,
O'Neal
we
and
went and
Nick
saw
Nolte?
we went and saw me, you and Tony went and saw, um, Natural Born Killers.
Oh yeah, that's
That
right.
was the one that we
Yeah.
went you saw Blue Chips, because that was
But the whole
probably
point though was is
but
that
yeah, it was
like
that era of
that's
just, like,
the
whatever.
thing though. Like back like in those days, like you would think that like straight lace like oh my god, I can't like go take my kids to go see no like Boys in the Hood, and it's like to us, to mom
We
and dad,
watched that as a family, like,
that
that's
shit doesn't, like we didn't look at it like it was any big deal. Like it was like,
yeah,
oh,
like
it's a
dude, I was
freaking
afraid of
it's
that
like a
movie because it was, like, so real, Like,
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to a kid or a girl, like, this is back in college, so I'm like 22 and she's like 18, so even that
Mhm.
4 year, or maybe I was a little older, maybe I was like maybe like 24-ish, maybe towards the end of school, and she was like early 20s, and just that not growing up with that movie,
Mhm.
she was like, "My film teacher made us watch this, and it was awful." I'm like, "Dude, do not disrespect Boys in the Hood. Like,
No,
it's
it's not
awesome."
awful.
And then,
Yeah.
and it was scary at the time for us not living in
Right.
that world and knowing anything about that. It was kind of like what I always consider like a war movie, because war movies always freaked me out. I
It
didn't care
took the
about
glazed over,
like
like, it took,
video,
like, the Cliff
like
Notes shit of
yeah,
that we watched on news
mhm,
reports, and it, like, brought everybody
yeah,
into, like, what it's like, what is it like to live in, you know, inner city
yeah.
freaking LA and stuff
Well, I
like
remember
that.
just like,
Like,
'cause I used to,
it's not just like a punchline or
yeah.
like, "Oh, that's just something that happens to, like, dumb
Well, it's
ghetto
like,
boys or whatever." I'm like, "No, this is, like, real
yeah.
life shit, dude."
Well, and I think
Like,
they concentrated too much on like the look and the era, not the message
mhm,
of the movie. You know what I mean? Because it was like it's
yeah,
early '90s, you know, gangster rap era. But it always reminded me of like war movies, because like up until like even Saving Private Ryan, those were always my scariest movies because that's like
mhm.
based on real shit. You know what I mean? A
Well, we
bird,
watched Platoon, right?
you watch
And then,
Platoon,
or watched like Platoon up until a certain scene, and
yeah,
then mom and dad were like, "Nope," like time to go to bed.
yeah, go
And
no,
and then
like, and that's
like
the worst
within
part
a
of
couple
it.
days of watching Platoon, dad throws his fucking Vietnam slides up on the freaking
Yeah. Well, then
wall.
we asked
And
them,
then when we like started like worrying about having to go to war, I remember
dude.
crying, I'm like, "I don't want
I know that's probably fucked me up.
to go to war."
Because they did like a total parent answer. I remember I was at work and one of my coworkers used to bring her daughter in, and she got like she used to like, you know how kids will like weird tastes for some reason. And it's like, you shouldn't like
Mhm.
lemons at like 5, and they're like
Yeah, right.
eating
Yeah.
like just eating lemons raw
Yeah.
because they're like
Like
taste
just
buds.
eating like the rind and all.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they haven't gotten into their taste buds yet. Well, she had like little cuts on her hand because she's a kid, and she's like, my hands are burning. So like my adult brain says, oh, lemons are acidic, But then I'm like,
Mhm.
don't say that. They're not gonna understand. She doesn't think lemons have acid in them. You know what I mean? She's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's something with lemons and oranges. They'll burn your skin. And try to explain it. So when we asked Dad if we had to go to Vietnam or go to war, and he's like, well, you have to fill out your draft card, and we were like, we knew he was drafted, so we're just like, oh.
We didn't understand like you'd have to be like in like severe wartime footing
Yeah,
to get drafted or whatever.
yeah.
But that's so crazy. Like I'm not like bagging you whatsoever. I was just like if there was like a list
Oh,
of movies that like I didn't know that you had
like
never
I said, I knew a lot about
seen,
it, pop culture. It's like James Bond.
I
Like,
would have thought it would have been something like, like The Town That Dreaded Sundown, or like one of those more
yeah.
like still kind of in the forefront, but
No,
it's just
this is one.
there's
You
so
want to hear
much
some
though.
like,
But you know what though, where the Halloween thing comes from too though is that people don't think that there is something to say about a 4 year gap and so to think about like, okay, what were the things that I may have been seeing at 17, 18, 19
yeah,
years old, and you were 4 years behind me, so
yeah,
no, you weren't at a slumber party watching Halloween.
no,
Maybe
you
Friday
watch
the 13th
Freddy
or
Krueger
yeah, but not like I
yeah,
don't know,
Nightmare.
so
Well, no, want to hear something sad? This even knocks me down another peg or two on the horror movie. If there's like a horror movie
horror movie.
crew, the
Yeah.
only Halloween movie I had ever seen up until last night was Halloween 3,
But that's awesome
because they would always play
because
it, and it
you
wasn't like a
when I
Halloween.
got that steelbook and you were like, dude, you got Halloween 3 steelbook,
Yeah,
and you were like so excited about it. And the funny thing is
I had
that
no clue what
that
I was going
worked
to.
perfectly for you. And now after seeing Halloween 1, now you get it because it was like to go Halloween 1, Halloween 2, which is
More.
just a yeah, more Halloween 1,
Mhm.
and then go Halloween 3, and there's no tie-in whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like Halloween 3 has literally nothing to do with Halloween 1.
Isn't it just based on the masks, right? Like somehow the kids put them. I remember the kids put the masks on in the
Yeah,
middle of
like
the
kids put
show.
the masks on, and then yeah, it's a guy that's just like,
You know what
oh
Halloween
here,
3 reminded me more of? Like a Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side episode.
yes,
Like a
yep,
long, just like creepy story.
yeah,
So there was
yep,
cool. So it was one of those. Do you ever those weird moments where you're doing something and then something like someone posts something about it or brings it up or
right, yeah,
it's on
yep,
Jeopardy? So we're watching, Halloween, and I jump on Instagram real quick because my phone went off, and then there was some. Oh, Dave went to the bathroom, so I pause it, and so someone posted a timeline for the Halloween movies. So it's like if you watch the first one, and it's
Mhm.
like, do you like more? You want more of this? Okay, Halloween 2, yes. Halloween 3, no. Halloween.
Right.
Then it's like the Rob Zombie ones are over here. Then after Halloween 2, it's like, or no, and it's like the 40th one. It's like, do you want more of this, but 40 years later? Halloween 2018. And then
Right.
it drops down to Halloween 2, and it's just like, so you go to Halloween 2, and then it's like, do you like more of this where Laurie is alive? And it's like Resurrection H2O, or like vice
Right.
versa.
Yeah.
And then it's
Yep.
like where Laurie's dead, 5 and 6. It was like cool, this little like
Yes.
really
That's
cool spider
awesome.
graph of like, oh, this is how you actually watch these movies. Because I didn't realize how effed Michael Myers' timeline was, because where Jason is 1 through 10, and then
Mhm.
or even Freddy versus Jason, and then the remake is like a version of 2. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And that's it. And in Nightmare on Elm Street, it's all of them, and then the remake is its own thing. You know?
Well,
But
the Friday 13th movies. I mean, they are
they don't need anything
like my
more.
favorite thing in the world. And you're right, but I mean, you want to talk about like skewed timelines? It's like, okay,
Well, isn't it
so how
someone?
the fuck does like the like baby or like little kid Jason
Yeah.
come like bursting out of the water in
Yeah.
part one, and then like literally
It's jacked.
2 months later, he's like a full grown adult, and he
He's a man.
stalks her
He
down
got a
and kills
beard.
her. Yeah.
Um,
So,
but
but
no, because someone said explained it perfectly that the Jason movies are campfire stories retold. So they're like parts are missing and shit's all
yeah,
different. Like,
that's a really good point. Or it's like Jason is more of like an idea,
yeah,
and
it's
that
an
each
idea
movie is like that person's idea of
what happened.
like what
Like if
Jason
you're in
is.
New
You know,
York and you like camping out somewhere, you're gonna tell Jason goes to
right,
Manhattan, which is
right.
like Vancouver actually.
So
It's
don't like
Ireland.
focus so much on like this, like
Yeah.
because there's even people that like argue and get into like the like, well, this Jason was better than this Jason because he moved it, and it's like you're you're putting too much thought
Yeah.
into something that was made to sell freaking movie theater tickets and popcorn
I just
and have
remember
fun
you
doing it.
wanted the poster at CVS of Jason's face without the mask. And mom and dad were
Yes.
like, "No, that's gonna scare the dog." So we're gonna let you get it.
That's awesome.
Like
Oh, what a
their
great
whole theory
story.
was that's gonna scare the dog. You can't have
That's gonna
that.
scare the dog. You can't have that.
Yeah, it just looked like hamburger meat with eyes and a worm coming out of it.
Yeah. I was just telling the story the other day about like when me and you stayed out and slept on the freaking trampoline, and you had like told that dude like, well, if you've got a problem with that, you can come to Ace. And you were like, I was so scared all night that this guy
Dude,
was
that
gonna
was
come at
that's a
me.
story for a whole podcast. But
Yeah, that
the
was
long
awesome though.
end of the short of it, and this is a theme that will get brought up a lot because I've been bringing it up a lot to Dana. Just the whole idea that we grew up where anything that we were into was the devil. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, dude.
Dungeons
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Dragons, you're Satanist. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Metal music, you're gonna go to hell. Everything's, rap music. Oh, it's ruining kids. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
everything that we're into. So I always tell people, I go, if you want to know someone's bullshitting you, they tell you these two things are it's for. The devil's doing it and it's hurting kids. If you hear that those two combinations, they're fucking bullshit. You're like
Yeah.
Pokemon, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
kids that are like in their 30s now, like 20s probably remember, adults telling them they're fucking Satan kids because they're, in the Pokemon. But so
Right.
when we were growing up, everyone was like, "You're a devil worshiper because you played D&D," and we're like, "Whatever, we're nerds that like telling stories. Fuck off." And I got on a forum, or like not even a forum. I don't even know what I was on.
I
And
do.
there,
This was like late '90s. I don't even know if it was
I
2000s
was
yet. Was it?
no, no, I was still in school. No, just out
Yeah.
of school. And I was still new to the internet. And I remembered from we used to have typing class, and it was one day because you did type on computers the whole time, like type like this apparently. But then they would take you to a special room where they just set up actual typewriters, and
Mhm.
you had to learn for one whole day how to type on a typewriter and how to do a business transact like a business letter, like letterhead, and
Mhm.
then and you would always sign. So for weeks, we're just learning to sign. And I think I was still in school. I think I was a junior or sophomore. So we just kept learning how you sign actual form letters. You know what I mean? So
Right.
my name, my whole address, blah blah blah, sincerely, whatever. So that's in my brain. I get onto this preacher's site, and it's like in a very nice way tell him that he's wrong. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons forever, blah blah blah. And then I fucking filled it out like a normal like letter because it was email at the time. I didn't know it any different. And then send. He replies back, "Oh, you lived by where we used to live, like off of such," and that's what freaked me out. So for like days,
Oh man.
I'm like, and then I knew enough to think it was weird as I went from I'm emailing a priest to tell him that he's wrong, but then in my mind, I'm like, he could come kill us. So I didn't like think like, why didn't I like have that forethought when I did it? Like he could just be a guy. Like he doesn't need to be a priest.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I did. I sent a priest.
Sorry. Yeah.
I told a priest that I wasn't a Satanist and sent him my full address.
Nice.
So yeah, I was not a smart internet user.